Wait, what's this one about?
Nothing. Nothing. I don't want it to be about anything. Are we podcasting?
I don't know yet, Kristin.
Podcasting?
We are podcasting. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. It's very easy. If you found us by accident, what you want to do is download what? Apple Podcasts,
I think
Spotify,
you're making it sound literally hard.
Okay.
You're making it sound as complicated. Wherever you listen to podcasts,
just
you can find
listen to I Mom So Hard and you'll find it.
Wishing
Follow
one
us
hand,
on all the
shit in the other.
social. Have we had cocktails? Yes. This is
No,
our I Mom
we've
So
had-
Hard happy hour. Are you happy yet? Are you happy? Are you happy?
From the beginning of this podcast, we were talking about being a happy hour podcast. 3 years later, we're having a happy hour podcast. And you know what I am?
Can you believe it?
I'm happy.
I'm happy, honestly.
Cheers.
That's what we thought. Like,
I don't know why Jen decided to give me her least fancy cup as though we've been at some shitty school fundraiser and I'm getting a glass of $2 Chuck.
You know what? I gave her a plastic cup because
Meanwhile, she's got nothing but glassware behind us that's super fucking fancy and has dust on it.
It's dusty. That's why. And
I'm like,
literally,
let me have
Krista, this is my reason because we have been podcasting in the podcast office, which is in the once defunct pool house in the backyard. We don't even have a pool.
That they took out.
So there's dusty glasses back here. Whenever I bring glasses out here or coffee cups, they mold in about 4 days because we don't.
Basically, what she's saying is she knew I would steal her good stuff. So
exactly, I was trying to be polite.
I put these in my bag. Take them home. Done.
Follow us on all the socials. We're there.
Yeah, we're on Instagram. We're on the tick.
We're on the threads. We've done 3.
We're on the thread?
Yeah.
Does it just switch over?
No, we had to opt in. I opted in, and Twitter's called X now. It just feels like let your drama die down, Twitter, and then we'll come back to you. But nobody's really. What's going on with Twitter?
I don't care.
Well,
it's just a
because
land
that's what
of,
I think about TikTok is.
What are you talking
but
about? It is not nerdy. It's the opposite.
I know.
It's the lowest common denominator. That's why I love it there.
It's a lot of quarterbacks that learn to edit themselves dancing. And it's,
Hi. Thanks. You just sold it. Can you just say that about our podcast? Can you make that kind of comment about our podcast and then everyone will listen?
Follow
Instead
my
of being
marketing company.
Oh, it's so easy. All you have to do is download an app and go to the Apple margins and sign into the.
You're making it sound like we're NPR and we are not that cool. You know how many followers they have?
I don't like NPR.
God, don't say that.
I don't
in
like
a
it.
public space.
Is that where
love
American
it.
Life is? I
Yes,
tell people I listen to that. I've never heard it in my life.
Are you serious?
Oh my God. Same
God, I
reason I
love
put
it.
my fancy books on the bookshelf. I'm like, I haven't read any of these.
Wrong.
not
I'm going to
Danielle
prove you
Steele.
wrong. Is Casey, wasn't Serial an NPR broadcast?
That's different.
Okay,
I
well-
wasn't listening on the radio. I listened on my phone.
What do you have, like a ham radio at home that you tune into some shows on or something?
Where are you getting NPR? If it's
on
not from
a
your
podcast, Kristen, on my phone.
That's not it. It's on your radio.
Do you think I carry
It's on
around
AM.
a jukebox on my shoulder or like a
It's
boombox?
on AM radio. That's
No, it
where
isn't.
NPR
No,
is.
it isn't. It's on
Not
FM.
on a phone.
You guys, we're going to
Nope.
start over this. No. NPR is on
National
FM.
Public Radio.
I know what it stands for.
It's what's the last word of it? Is it called NPP? You know me.
Welcome to Happy Hour. Doesn't get much cooler than where it's at right now.
Hey, you know
I
what?
really-
If it works for Bert Kreischer, works for us. That fucker has 40 drinks
She's
tonight.
just dragging people that she doesn't like on this podcast now.
He's fine. I don't like the way he talks about his wife.
I don't know why he doesn't wear a shirt when he does stand
I actually
up.
find that
That's-
attractive. And
Really?
we all know who I married.
He does kind of look like your
Colin got upset when I said, I go, I'm married to a Bert. And he goes, I'm so much more attractive than him. And I go, fair. But you do like to take your shirt off at parties.
I think Colin, if you were to describe Colin and Bert Kirshner, you would. What's
Are
his
we saying
name?
it? Kreischer?
How do you say it?
Chrysler?
Chrysler?
I don't know.
Bert
No, it's
Kreischer?
not. It's Kirshner. Krishner.
I don't give a fuck, honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest.
Krishner.
Crusher, Bert the Crusher Kreischer, right?
Bert. We'll just call him that.
Yeah.
The guy without
If you
the
were to
shirt on.
describe him and to describe Kristen's husband, you'd be like, they're taller guys, dark hair,
Beard. Love to booze. Love to party.
Colin does not look like he has lived the hard life that guy is like. You know that guy's been out on bail a couple times, right?
God bless him. He's all. I'm gonna swing the other way. He's been married to the same woman for 20 years. He's very loyal, and he has 2 daughters, and they literally give him the hardest time ever, which I feel is totally fair. But I do think there's a little crew on the old TikTok and the old podcast world that feel like they're like the cool guys at the party. Well, I'm just saying,
they're pretty cool.
Cocktails work for that guy. Why can't they work for this lady?
Oh,
because I too like to take my shirt off at parties, but nobody thinks it's that funny.
Oh, we did that. We did that. We showed our stomachs at a stand-up show.
Well, would you like to say that again with more S's?
We showed our stomachs at a stand-up show.
We showed our stomachs on an Amazon special that's currently available on Amazon if you haven't heard of that.
Why don't you go check it out? We get nothing for it, but you might enjoy it.
We've been doing this a while, Bert.
Okay, so this week's episode.
It's called Nothing We're Going to Talk About That's Linear.
Gosh, remember those days? Did you ever do this? Okay, because I always had like office jobs. And I tell you, I have over-romanticized this idea of what a happy hour is.
Did you go to happy hours?
I did, yeah. And definitely like, well, I had an office job in my 20s where I worked for like the local weekly, like cool newspaper. Yeah. And so there would often be days where it'd be like, it's 4:00. I think we put in a good day. Let's like go to this dive bar. It was very fun. But like I worked at this big newspaper and they had this like bar. That was like their bar. Yeah. Which I know like in a lot of big cities there's that. And so they would always go to this like same bar when they got like done doing the news. And like they would stay till 2 a.m., get up. Ooh. And so my old boss at this newspaper said when he started, he said that we have 2 questions. We'd love to hire you, but we want to know 1, if you will shave your beard, because he was a big hippie, and 2, if you can hold your liquor. Because
they asked you?
No, my old boss.
Oh, I was like, that's rude because if I don't want to shave, I don't want to have to.
Kristen's like, I will shave my legs, but not my face beard. It's not happening.
Because when I walk into a room with men, they respect me.
I've won too many contests.
And quite frankly, I break out when I shave too much. So don't make it a requirement, sir.
No, but they used to have, like, I can't imagine maintaining this lifestyle, but they would have like 2 martini lunches to like close big advertising deals and stuff. And then at the end of the day, they would go to this lounge.
I don't know how people do it.
When do you want to go to bed and get in a blankie and watch TV? I don't understand.
I've wanted to do that like even in my 20s, but I can tell you there were 2 times, and I worked in restaurants, so I didn't have happy hour. I was probably your bartender.
Oh yeah,
but
your happy hours at like 10:30, kind of.
Well, or you'd go out on an off night. You'd go out like a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and then they would have they'd call it industry night. Like a bar would serve other bartenders. It's brilliant, by the way, because bartenders are like, let me give you all of my money.
I'm going to tip you way too much.
I'm going to tip you way too much. And then you're just like giving away drinks to everybody.
Yeah.
So I had 2 times ever in my life where I was working in production. And I was the lowest, literally my name wasn't even on the list. Sometimes they were like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm the production assistant. And
I'm here to plug the meters.
Yeah, I'm here to make sure if anybody has a stool sample they need taken to the doctor, I'm going to be your girl. And this one woman who I only worked with for like a week, she was like, we're going to lunch. And I was like, what? Me with you? Like I sit at the same table? I'm not like out waiting in your car.
Can I make eye contact with you?
And she's like, yeah, you and me. And she's like, we'll take 2 martinis. And then she ate like a salad, and it was like a leaf of salad. I had never had a martini. By the way, I did great on the martini. But let me tell you what I was for 4 hours.
Useless.
Buzzed off of my mind. And I had red cheeks, and I was wearing overalls and like a striped shirt underneath. And I was like, everything's great. And then by 4:00, I was like, my head hurts. She went on to have another happy hour. Sure. Do I think she was a professional drinker? I do. But by some miracle, she was actually really good at her job.
Well, it's just another time and place. Like
it was another time and place. I was very in my young 20s. She was not and doing great, and probably later went on to rehab and is now living a very clean life. But for the time being, it was really fun. And then I had one other time where I had to go pick up something from this kind of fancy director, and he was known for being difficult. And so they sent me, a production assistant, into the den to deal with him. And I got in there, and he...
By the way, I'm doing these small laughs because I want to make a horrible joke about what Kristin was willing to do.
No, they weren't willing to. They weren't sending me because they thought, listen, you know what I wear. I was wearing probably a tech vest.
Yeah.
Like
a Dickie.
When people say I'm a production assistant.
I didn't mean a Dickie, one of those turtlenecks, but now that I think about it, it was probably one of those turtlenecks and then like a Dickie overalls that she could change your oil with.
Yeah,
but she wore the turtle. And
like, listen, I'm so hot. I'm in my 20s. I do think I had a little bit to offer, but God, I wasn't wearing anything that told you otherwise. So they were like, you got to go pick up this thing from this office. And I go in, and evidently he was from like the Netherlands or something and was having some sort of like festival party where it was the only time of the year that he was nice. So he had vodka shots with, you took it with a piece of bread, an onion, and a tiny bit of caviar, which was, by the way, I'm 22.
Little bit of Quaaludes and ketamine. Just a little sprinkled on the top. And then all of a sudden you wake up in Canada. And it's a really...
We dated for 4 months.
Well, I think I dated him. I don't think he was dating me.
So I go in and I was like, well, they told me he's so difficult and like hard to deal with. And he seems so nice and he's got red cheeks. I mean, like, he looks like Santa. Like, this is great. So I go in and he's like, you must do it with a very strong Scandinavian accent, which is all my people, right? And he's like, you must do a shot. And I'm like, well, who am I to say no? So not only do I do one, I do
now
3.
Now that you've narrowed it down. What?
I do 3.
Okay.
I love the caviar, but I didn't want to be rude. I do 3.
So
they go back so
fast. You did the vodka shots just so you could have the little caviar sandwich. Yeah. I get that. I did
the caviar sandwich.
But you've narrowed it down quite a bit. Can't you just say who it was? How many Scandinavian...
God damn it, Jen.
Directors are there?
I didn't think anybody would be doing the math on this. I can't say. Can I? Why can't I say his name? I don't know why I'm talking around it. All right, fine.
Here's the only thing.
Listen, I was on this movie Deep Blue Sea, okay? And it was a terrible time. And the director was Rennie Harlan, and he was notoriously difficult. And
that's the only bad thing you've said. You've said it twice.
I've never known him to be anything but nice because he was serving out vodka, not in a creepy way.
See?
I'm from Finland. I'm celebrating this day.
We do this.
I do 3 of...
You can't be culturally insensitive and not take shots from people when they're offered.
I've been to parties where they're like, you're not getting in here unless you do a shot of tequila. And I fucking hate tequila. But culturally, I'm a cool down chick. So I will participate. So I had 3 shots. He only told me to do 1, but the caviar was delicious and I was poor. So I took 3 shots.
I bet that was really expensive vodka, by the way.
It was the best. And it was ice cold. It was so fun. So there was, by the way, it wasn't me and him by myself. There was a whole office of people. I was like, this is the coolest job. I'm working in visual effects. I need to make a transfer. So I'm go back to my office with my coordinator that I hate. His name was Jack. He's a dick. And I went back to that office.
Nobody knows who that is.
He's a total dick, and I got no problem saying it. I got so many stories about that asshole. So I go and I sit at my desk, and I'm like, oh, and I'm having the best day I've ever had in my whole life on that job. I was like, I should bring a flask to work. I know what you're thinking. Don't judge me. I was 22. It was a tough job, but it was the best daytime lunch, real person liquid lunch. You hear about them. I've never had them. 2 events in my life.
Yeah.
Both positive.
But that is a very European thing to do. I'm not saying I'm jealous, but I absolutely am. It's like,
well, you don't like doing shots, but I like vodka.
Yeah, I would never do. And actually, if I had like a glass of wine at lunchtime, I'd fall asleep. I think that's why people siesta, you know? That's why they do those like...
Yeah.
Those long lunches in your... It's a smart idea because then you've had a nice little nap and then you can finish out your day and go have some ridiculously great dinner with bread.
Yeah. Oh, God. Where are we moving?
No.
Not Finland. I don't like it cold.
I don't like it cold. I'm just thinking...
It was a very fun time. Am I going to get in trouble for any of this?
I don't think you are. No.
I think just let her loose. Who cares? I've got other shit to say about people that you give me one more cocktail, it's coming out hot.
Well, I'll tell you this. So the place, like when I worked so this is for all you Nebraska people, you'll identify. When I worked at the Omaha World Herald, the old advertising office, which was referred to as the West Office, it was like Midtown kind of, like 72nd. And the bar was the Interlude Lounge. And it was one of those, this is my favorite. It's like the Regal Beagle, you guys. It's like the sunken big
come and
leather.
knock on my door.
Come and knock on our door. Because the bed is blue. Like these like barrel chairs. Like
oh my God,
very
the best.
low, like very dimly
Dark.
lit. There's dark.
Always.
I love it so much. And we called it the Lude.
Feels right.
Right? It was so fun. And I kind of I over romanticize those places in my head.
know
And I wish
why?
Isn't there, how come there isn't one here?
That's what I
down
was
the
gonna
street
say.
Or like
You can say what you want. Like when you grow up with a pub or in a pub town or a pub life, which I did, which it was very normal for me to go to the ball fields, and then all the parents would all go to the Legion Club and have a couple beers, and the kids would all run together in where they, if there was a Saturday night wedding, it's where you would have the dance, and we would go in there, play games. They had Pac-Man, they had Space Invaders. Sometimes they would have fried chicken that you could buy and eat, and so moms didn't have to cook, and it was super fun. It was never because we had another bar in town where you knew people were drinking too much and it was sad.
The pros.
This was more of the pub, the Irish, culturally, you would bring your community together and it was fun. And yes, there was beer served, but people weren't knocking back shooters and hooking up. They were just having a good time. And I remember it all being very positive.
Well,
I think
she grew up in a very small town and everyone was related.
Well,
so
that's
not a lot of hooking up.
Listen, I just didn't date because I didn't want to, not because we weren't related.
Is that why?
Well, there were a couple cousins that I think second wise.
No, I agree.
Anyway, so, but I think what you're saying is we haven't, even in where I live and where you live, we haven't found that place. It's not the same.
No, there's nothing like that. And it's I don't know if it's missing that about small towns or what. I don't even know if it's that because my dad was in
maybe Midwest. I don't know.
Well, my dad was in the Air Force and he moved around so much, but he had this party trick and I would test it out. Not that I traveled a ton, nothing compared to what I did.
You've only done 4 national tours?
No, I mean.
Sorry.
That's what I was saying. Not until now.
Flex.
Not until the last 8 years, but before that, I could call my dad and I would say, hey, I'm in this town, I'm on this trip or this work trip or whatever, I'm traveling for work. And he could tell you the funnest bar to check out in that town because he had been an airman.
Oh yeah, sure. And they get treated they're gods.
They just every single town. It was the funnest party trick where I would ask him, or sometimes he would just tell me and call. He's like, oh, make sure you go
to Mikey's on 7th.
He knows me so well, too, that before I moved to Los Angeles, he was like, you know where you should live one time? New Orleans. And I was like, no dad in his right mind. He's like, no, it's a really good time. I think he'll really appreciate it.
I spent some quality time in New Orleans, and I will tell you that I felt like
rectal tattoos are painful. That's what I'll tell you. I didn't... I wasn't expecting that. Nobody can see it. That's the only good thing about it.
By the end of my time in New Orleans, I was there for 6 weeks. I was like, I want to go home to LA because I feel like I've become the devil here.
I want a safe place to get to.
I want Los Angeles.
Something about New Orleans brings it out in you too, because this is not
you would need to talk to my husband about this. I am sure that Colin Sweeney
has some
endured many a women in New Orleans due to freaking take off your booby top and show your beads to everybody.
My husband has a story about going to Mardi Gras and
what? Bray would be so uptight about it.
No. Oh God, are you kidding me? Drunk? My husband? No.
Well, I've only seen Britt drunk two times, 3 times. Buzzied.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't. But he would have been in college,
Sure,
which is
sure.
when he went.
I think my husband went like every weekend, and this explained his 2.4 grade point average.
I always say this: like a dude can go to spring break on college with nothing but his Velcro wallet and his swim
100%.
trunks. He doesn't need anything else. And a girl
has
in
like
college,
18 bikinis.
she'll die of a yeast infection if she tries to do that.
Yeah.
Like she would. Like
Gotta have dry pants.
There are so many differences in the way that women can party and men can party, but
especially in New Orleans, I'm just damp all the time.
You know where he stayed? On somebody's porch on a couch.
God Christ.
He was there for like 4 days. They didn't sleep. They didn't want to spring for a hotel room because they just wanted to like drink the whole time.
It's expensive during Mardi Gras too.
Yeah.
It's fun. You would love it. You would
I've been.
You've been.
Not to the parades though.
No, I've only been to Jazz Fest. Highly recommend.
Wait, okay. I've never been there for Mardi Gras, but I've been to New Orleans a bunch.
Yeah, okay.
You're saying Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras, I would not, it's not going to be the thing I'm into. I went during Jazz Fest. I was there during Jazz Fest, and that was really cool. And then also, I just got to know the city because I worked all over it, that we were in the outskirts. So we got to go to those hole in the wall places with like a skinny door with a weird doorknob, and you walk in, and first of all, the smell of the food, oh my God. The food is so rich and has its own particular smell that when you walk it, my mouth is watering right now. Like, and it's served like they'll put a big bin of crawfish in front of you, and everybody just digs their hand in, they're sucking crawfish.
Yeah.
Or the a shrimp etouffee or jambalaya, all that. Oh my God. It makes your face melt. It smells so good.
I went on a pharmaceutical trip.
Okay, so did I, but it was
rep.
Oh,
diff story. Yeah, no.
Diff.
It was all legal stuff.
Okay, mine was a pharmaceutical trip based on the illegal pharmaceuticals that I endured.
Although I tell you, you know who can stay up late to party? That's salespeople. And
yeah, because they're all like, hey, I got pharmaceutical grade shit.
We didn't have, here's the problem. We didn't have any of that good stuff, but something about like New Orleans really brings it out of you because
it's a nighttime city.
We went there like, this is the oldest bar, like oldest tavern. And it's like 4 buildings kind of stuck together and part of it's like outside. Somebody can tell me what it is. And they had these wine glasses. We're just having wine. They had these wine glasses that had the name of the bar on it. And I just took 2 of them off the table and I put them in my purse, and my boss was like, she goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm taking them. I go, you know how many people, I go, I just throw them on the floor and break them. It's like, that happens like 80 times a day. What's the difference if I take care of them and love them at my house? Like,
what are you doing?
And she was like, that's a really good point. Yeah, they're probably very disposable glasses. But we stayed out till like 4 in the morning, and then we got beignets.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Went and had like 2 hours of sleep, and then got up and
I got severely constipated in New Orleans. I was like, the food just worked against me in every way. I'd go up and I would try to order like anything with a vegetable, and they were like, you want a fried or double fried? And I was like,
double fried,
I want
please.
a double fried. And so then I gained like 14 pounds, and then my pants didn't fit, and then I got yeast infections all the time, and I got super constipated, and then I had to go home.
Which is why she was banging a lot of people, because she was just nothing but super hot.
I don't think a lot is a fair. I wasn't a saint in the old dun 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 dun. Come marching in. I don't even know if that's part of the city, but it's kind of in the vibe.
Yeah,
it's also a place that I never need to go to again, because I have explored that city.
Okay.
And if my kids ask me to go to Tulane and they get in, I'll be like, that's a great school. Absolutely not.
I got a couple
that's
friends
like going to
that
Vegas.
have kids that go. Yeah.
Nope.
Definitely party school. But it's
so, a good school.
It's so culturally blah, blah, rich there. Where like the other thing we got to do is have this really nice dinner, and we like sat in the room where Oysters Rockefeller were first served at that restaurant. And they developed them because the Rockefellers were coming to dinner or whatever. Yeah. So they came up with that, and they made it the oysters green. May I just say, I know it's a super famous dish, but I don't like cooked oysters.
Nobody likes cooked oysters.
But they only cook them in New Orleans.
No, they do not. I'd like to push back on that.
Okay.
Because on one of my, you guys know, I just said I was constipated. So I was like, what works better than some really strong oysters? So I'd battled through, and I had 2 days left, and I was by myself, and I was like, what do I want to do here? I'd been working the whole time and I was like, what do I want to do? And there was a really cool oyster bar. You would love it. They have all these guys sitting in front. You sit down at this like horseshoe bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at these guys and they're shucking oysters for you. And they've got these knives and they're so fast.
Yeah.
And you sit down and they bring you a bucket of beer in you're sitting kind of in your own. So it's really easy to be by yourself because you're like, everybody seems to be by themselves. So you sit up there and they bring you a bucket of beer and they come up and they're like, how many oysters do you want? And you kind of get this guy in front of you who's like really fun and charming and he's shucking oysters for you. And if I would like to bet I ate 25, if not more oysters to the point where the guy was like, Ma'am,
we can't legally give you any more oysters. Your mercury level is so high right now.
They're like, ma'am.
I can actually tell your temperature from your eyes. So you have had, but that's what New York is like too. Britt says his favorite oyster bar is in Grand Central Station where you like underground.
That makes sense.
He says it's this great oyster bar, but
I think you and I are at the end of the day, like this is going to sound like, I don't mind this description of us. I think we are,
no.
I think we're like bar people. I think we're like pub people. And I say pub because I think there's an energy there that always has there's always food.
Yeah.
And there's always an energy and there's always some sort of like, it's lively. I don't know. My husband's a pub person. He's Irish for the love of God. Like it's a part of our thing.
God,
so
it's like Cheers. It's like
God,
everybody knows your name. Like
it's the only song I know how to play on the piano.
Well, see?
My mom was like, what have I done? And I'm like, I don't know.
My dad
could have pressed
also
me more to play more Beethoven. I'm on you.
My dad's other party trick, besides knowing the fun bar in every city, was to know where his favorite grill, literally his favorite physical grill, burger grill was at every.
Funny.
Because like restaurants will sell their grill, like upgrade it, get a newer one, and then they take the old one, clean it up, and sell it to like a smaller bar. So my dad started at Goldberg's with his favorite burger grill, and then it went to the Marleybone, and then it went to this place called the Chicago, and then I don't know where it ended up, but my dad, that they became his regular bar that he would go to get burgers.
That grill tasted so good. That's like a cast iron skillet, man.
Yeah, that's like Holy Grail kind of grill.
Yeah, dude, that is like that's a real commitment.
Yeah. My husband was so like dedicated to giving me my like dream wedding, you know, which
and it was beautiful.
It was. It was.
And then Finn ruined it.
Oh, for you. For you.
Not for you.
I do remember being like, oh man, he's got a fever.
No, he had full hand, foot, mouth disease, like broke out in a full rash on his cheeks. New baby.
Is that the hotel you were at that you got pregnant with Eleanor?
No, he's had it twice. I told you, I gave it out at parties.
Okay.
He had full hand, foot, mouth disease. This was at 9 months, and then he got it again at 14 months. Whenever I got
Finn,
knocked up.
Now that you're old enough, I'd like to tell you that was inconvenient.
Yeah, it was a real drag. I was wearing heels for the first time. I was so excited. It was beautiful.
It was so fun.
So fancy.
So we decide we wanted to go to Paris for our honeymoon because I was like, well, that's the dreamiest thing I could ever imagine. Yeah. And so because my husband's dad was a pilot, he had literally millions of airline miles.
Oh my God, how nice.
Yeah.
So that's the make or break of travel is those damn airline.
Yeah.
And now hotels, don't get me started. It's fine. Go ahead.
But still, so we got the tickets and we were able to get like not first class, but they were like business. So it's like a little bit like felt so like 1950s
fancy,
honeymoony to like, and at one point when we were leaving Paris, I had taken a Tylenol PM. But
this is where Jen's drug stories are too much to bear. Tylenol PM.
I know.
God.
It might have been.
Somebody needs an intervention.
Might have been a cyclobenzaprine, but who knows?
Anyways, what shit can I get that's not legal?
There was a thunderstorm, and we had to wait on the runway for like 6 hours, and I've never been so happy in my life. I was like, oh, I just get to sit here and read magazines and listen to this like French music, and they bring you all the wine that you want so much so that they're like, ma'am, put your shoes on and don't come back into our fridge anymore. Swear to God, they did that. And Britt was like, what did you think they would say? I was like, every time they came by, you said yes, because I didn't know when they'd cut off these little bottles.
Judgy of you, sir.
But I just was putting them in the seat pocket in front of me in case they were like, we're out. I wasn't going to be out.
I do the
had
same
several
thing.
hours more.
Like, I might need these in my hotel.
Exactly.
Plus, they're cute.
And it's free. It's free.
It's free. That's what it really is. Like, come by and ask me, like, hey, do you want this shoehorn? It's free. I'm like, absolutely.
Yes, I'm going to
I don't want to have
forever.
to pay for a shoehorn ever.
Forever. So, but when we were there, we were trying to, like, we spent all the money on the wedding. We didn't have money to, like, really do Paris the right way, but it was still, like, awesome, really fun corner pubs and stuff like that, where you literally, like, you go down into a cellar where you feel like you're going to get murdered to use just a hole in the ground to pee into. Like, they're so old. It's like
so
400 and 500-year-old pubs. It's so fun. Like, you order something, they look at you like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, they're making fun of you.
Mean
Like,
to me.
Yeah. It's so great. But then I was like, I kind of thought the food would be amazing here. Like, we hadn't found the food that we
French
liked.
food's a tough sell, if you ask me. Everybody gets, I totally
The
understand
bread.
loving Paris for the crepes, the bread, in Paris itself. But to order French food is not so easy.
It's hard.
It's
and
very rich.
The shrimp have the eyes on them.
Yep.
And it's a little, it's like what you know, but different a little bit.
It's what you know French food to be, but you're like, am I willing to make that my meal?
So I was really unhappy with the food. Like, we tried these great places, we tried the gamut.
Yeah.
And then I go, let me see if my Yelp app works on my phone.
My God, Jen loves Yelp.
I do love Yelp. You guys,
I don't think I've ever looked at Yelp. I'm like, I think it's made up. Let's walk in and ask if it's a good place.
I tell you, here's the tricks. You throw out all the 5-star and the 1-star. Yeah, I think throw out the 2-star
Literally,
too.
all of the places you found us have been awesome.
It's all, yeah. You just go through the middle of the road, see like what people say about specific dishes and stuff like that.
Not me. I pull over a gas station.
Whatever.
I'm like, what do you think about a place that serves chicken? You got anything like that in mind? And then we can't
Sometimes
trust it.
you do, though. Sometimes you can find it really good. Remember
if it's
that
a
fried
local
chicken? We had fried chicken when we were traveling that was so good that we called Kristen's dad Dewey.
And my dad is not supposed to be eating fried chicken, and I think it was the meanest thing I've ever done.
He keeps calling and
knowing.
asking about it.
He
How
keeps
crispy was it?
How crispy? It looked like you really tapped that with a spoon and made a real noise.
You could like go on the top of it with your fork.
I didn't realize how mean that was. It was like calling an alcoholic and being like, look at this martini I'm sucking back.
Well,
delightful.
That crust or that breading was so crispy you couldn't.
If we could have had a beer with it, it would have been perfect. So anyway,
anyways, I Yelped to see if it works, and we found this weird place, and I was like, "Oh, they have oysters." I'm like, "I know what I'm getting with an oyster."
Yeah,
like
Jen loves oysters, and I know now because we've been friends for so long how specific she is about oysters, and I believe she's right. The smaller, the saltier, and the better they taste. Yes. It's true.
They're like brined
and that sauce that you like, not my favorite, but
mignonette.
I know why you like it. Mignonette.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It brings out all the flavors.
I go horseradish
has
and
all the shallots.
Shrimp cocktail.
Yeah.
Shrimp, whatever the red stuff is.
Spicy, the horseradish.
I love horseradish.
Yeah.
I want it to like burn my sinuses.
My husband does too, but I feel like you don't taste the oyster that much.
I could also eat them raw. We're disgusting when it comes to oysters, you and I.
I don't like them big. We've probably had 36.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting before.
Yeah, you and I embarrassed ourselves
at a place. Small ones.
Everyone was like, "Whoa!" We're like, "We don't expect you to pay this." Our friends were like, "We want to take you out for oysters," and we're like, "I don't think you do. I don't
then
think
we're
you
buying because you're gonna have to take out a second mortgage
on your house." Like,
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you guys are funny," and I'm like. And then later they were like, "Oh, you girls can eat."
I'll tell you right now, my biggest nightmare is when you go out and people are like, "You want to order some oysters?"
And share them.
And there's 4 people there, and they get a dozen.
12?
I'm like,
"Whoa, what are you guys gonna eat?" Luckily for us, we ordered.
And then I do this, which is really passive aggressive. I go, I'll just get them as my meal, and then I'll order as many as I fucking want.
Yeah, that is not a meal. That is so an appetizer in the Kristen space. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Listen, it's still you eat 36 and you're still at like 270 for calories. Like there's nothing to them.
This is a gateway into my steak combo. I'm gonna have the bloodiest steak that I'm allowed to after this, eating these raw fish guts. It's going to be great. Anyway, you're back in Paris.
So we're back in Paris, and it's kind of far away, but I'm like, let's take a cab. No part of Paris is not fun. Like, you drive through it.
So true.
Granted, I thought we were going to get murdered a couple times.
That's
and
Paris.
Mugged. It's exciting, you guys, and romantic.
It's an exciting thing.
The city of love.
And also the post office looks like you're taking pictures of it because it's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And,
and
like,
everything's
the post office.
1,400 years old. It's so amazing. But so we go to this
fucking 7-Eleven.
We go to this oyster bar, and there are 4 tables.
God
in this
bless.
oyster
I love
restaurant.
it so much.
Yep. It is like a hanging light and these just block wooden tables. And there's just a guy behind a counter shucking oysters. And here's what they had: French bread, no butter, oysters, a little bit of vinaigrette, and white wine. They had
You're the happiest person. It's your bar.
And we were like, you just bring us whatever you think we're going to enjoy.
All of it.
And we were like, it is both of us. It was the best meal that we have ever had in our lives. We couldn't believe how good it was. And it was like so gratifying after like having spent all this money. And it wasn't that expensive. And then we were right by that, right across from Les Deux Magots, the famous The Two Maggots, and it's a steak place, but it's super expensive. So we went over there and we just had dessert afterwards. And it was amazing.
I would much rather have the experience you did than have the overhyped experience.
Yeah.
We also went to Paris on our honeymoon. We went later.
11 months pregnant.
I was so pregnant that I tried to use my pregnancy to get upgraded to first class. It didn't work, but they were concerned about how far along I was.
That's what I'm saying. You can do that business.
They were like,
and it's great.
"Hey, are you supposed to be flying?" I'm like, "I'm not even 7 months, ma'am." And so I remember I bought a maternity pea coat because we were going like in November, and I had no idea I'd be this big because we waited like a month after we got married, and my pea coat would not connect. Like, so it was just, I had like 2 maternity tops that were like bright color, and then the strap would tie at the top.
Her pea coat didn't fit because her bra size was pea.
I mean,
like it had gone up really high.
And also being on that flight, Colin was so sweet. I was so uncomfortable. And yeah, we were real fucking coach on that one. And we were like sitting there, but I didn't care. So we got into Paris, and all of a sudden I was like, I guess I'd been having it, but I was like, this thing I've got, this burning. And every time I swallow or eat anything, it's called heartburn. And it was like came on so strong when we were in Paris. So I couldn't barely eat anything, but we stayed in this little divey hotel. We had to push our beds together because there were 2 twins. Nothing was going to be comfortable for me. But right below us was this little French restaurant, totally like a family-owned joint, and they had this carrot soup and they had this cooked trout, which in a million years those 2 things don't sound like they would be delicious. It was the only thing I could eat that didn't make my stomach hurt and my heart burn. So we would go get that soup and that fish twice a day because I couldn't eat or do anything else. And they made it special for me. They knew I was going to come in.
Yeah.
So they made sure to have more of it because they loved that I was pregnant. And also the place is like 8 foot by 8 foot. So they took it was a wonderful experience. And then Colin, then they were like, you should try this red wine. And I was like, that looks delicious.
Well,
I did not.
A lower alcohol content. But when we went to Italy, so there's this place called Alfredo's.
Which already is a so.
It's where fettuccine Alfredo came from. Okay. Yep. But this is how it all came about. It was just like a little tiny, not famous restaurant, although all Italian restaurants are great. All the pubs.
They're really all great. Their pubs are not that great, I don't think. It's more of a restaurant vibe.
Always restaurant.
And it's more wine. Heavy. But like Irish pubs and like your German pubs and all that beer gardens.
See, I haven't been there yet. I want to go. I want to go.
But you're not wrong. Italian, you just can't go to a bad restaurant.
Yeah.
To the Italians are like, oh, they went to Marcelli's,
But
that's
that's-
real dumb.
My husband had been to Alfredo's when he was a kid, and he was like, "Oh, it's like the Olive Garden to them. It's like
Yeah, they're snotty about
Yeah.
it, but we're fine. We're
But
like,
here's
woo.
where fettuccine Alfredo came from. And if you go there and you order it, and you have to order it, they make it table side. So this might be the last time I ever had anything bacon related. This is what
That's
was so
on you.
his Alfredo's wife was pregnant and had horrible morning sickness, and the only thing that she could eat was this thing he made. There were egg noodles with heavy cream, butter, bacon fat, and Parmesan cheese, and that is fettuccine Alfredo, and that is what they make table side for you. They melt it all like over a fire, and he would make it every day for his wife.
Good.
All that being said, I wish I had a local pub around the corner to go to where everybody was like,
I know.
"Hey, Britt and
because that's-
Jen are here tonight."
I know, because we live in a big city, and it's LA specific, where it's like, it's just different. Like there's highs and lows, and there's pros and cons, and we love, Southern California has so many amazing things, but like I do think your local pub is kind of hard to find.
Yeah, I know. I get jealous because my friends back at home, they have those, like
Every small town
they
has
run
one.
into each other all the time, and like
In Central, they have one and now has an indoor sand volleyball court. Like
fancy. And there's a wine bar there
there's
too.
a wine bar. I know. I can't remember the name of it. That's a bummer. But it's like it's very related to where we're from. It's also like Chicago. I mean, Jiminy, you throw a stone, you're in like some cool ass old pub, New York, all of them. But LA is definitely a different tune. And I love going to different restaurants, but it's like today, like I found one, I have an anniversary coming up. I was like, well, I want to go to this place.
Don't get the wrong idea, Colin. It's not
if I
about
feed
you.
him, there's a good chance he just
That's all, and he'll fall asleep. Fettuccine Alfredo is very heavy, as I just described.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, we both have some fettuccine Alfredo. Maybe we roll around a little bit and then we both pass out. Everybody's happy. Wake up, you don't have to do anything.
TMI.
You wrestle.
TMI.
It's more like naked wrestling.
Go back
like
to
aggressive
talk about what else were you talking about?
Well, we're talking about the city of love, which is Paris.
No.
Yep.
No, here's what I was going to say.
Love
you and
making.
I, when we were traveling, when we were doing shows, got to go to a really fun place that kind of ties all of these together. So when we were in DC.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay.
It is maybe my favorite.
When we were.
Why is that?
Because it oozes history. It is like, okay.
Why is it? But
so
you're going to
everybody.
make fun of me. I know why you're going to tell this story, because you're going to also remember.
Oh, I forget about that part of it. Kristen was in love with our
Shut
waiter.
up.
You were.
He was in love with me. We had a thing.
Yeah,
I was like,
it was
stop,
a
look at my
mutual
ring.
flirtation, but everything
It was not a flirtation. It was an acknowledgement of unrequited feelings that had found their way.
He was like, "Do you want a refill?" And she was like,
"Shut up,
She's
Jen
like,
Smedley.
she'd
There's been
fall on
two
the
people on
fainting
flights
couch.
that you have felt the same way about that look like dirty UFC fighters." And I'm like, "You are Twitter pated
"Who
right
are
now."
you talking about? That last flight we were on?
There's been two. I'm just saving one space for one I can't remember, but I know there's been two. But that bar in DC was dope.
So it's this bar. If you're from the DC area, you'll know it, or if you've ever been there.
Capitol Hill, baby.
But everybody said you have to go there. This is where like Congress people and everybody from the news,
big red volume, like seats.
They would fight with each other like all day long, and then they would go all drink together at this bar and hang out. And it had like, it was famous for oysters.
Those servers are all wearing white coats and black ties and white shirts.
Downstairs, there's like a party room. It's so old,
it was
you
sexy.
guys.
It was old and sexy. So think like it, obviously like something that you would see on the West Wing, like big high top. What do you call them? Like U-shaped booths with like leather, with like red leather stitching.
Yeah,
it was very glowy and warm. And yes, there was a server
who was attractive.
And the thing that I liked about him most, attracted to me.
Very appealing. Yes,
fit. We had a tete-a-tete, if you will, and I was like, okay.
And we were there with
have you heard of IMOMSOHARD? Because is that why you're coming out so strong?
I absolutely have not heard of it.
I'm like, well, I'm kind of a big deal in this space.
Still have not heard of it. I'm not.
And I am married, and he's over there, and I'm annoyed,
None
but
of this
it's
is
fine.
interesting to me. Okay.
Just
What,
I'm saying,
do you
if you
want a
want to do
refill?
push-ups. Shut up, you poker.
But I imagine like going there in like a heavy wool coat and it's like snowing outside and then you like go in there and it's like super warm and you like
have a brandy. I've never even drank
I
brandy.
haven't either, but I
want
romanticize this stuff so much.
Because it's so fun. Because it's, I mean, listen, there's a reason we like to go have drinks and call it happy hour because it's a place where, as long as you're not,
going crazy. All
going
right.
crazy and
Save
freaking
your
leaving
messages.
your kid in a goddamn
I will let
parking
you
lot.
know when I'm having too much fun. And
I will
we've
let
yet to
her
see
know when she's having too much fun.
That is true.
The second she's like, let me do your numerology, I'm like, oh,
time to go.
We gotta go.
Call an Uber.
call it. I'm going to give you 30 minutes. I'm going to call the Uber. I'm just like, Jen, I'm going to go barf now. It doesn't have to get to that point, but it does.
But it's fun if it does.
Sure
Sometimes.
does.
On occasion.
Once in a while.
Not?
You guys, did we podcast?
I think we podcasted.
And our love story in our hot box, nope, our mom box is Paris, Pubs, and Peter from DC. I don't know if that's his name. I'm making it up.
The waiters are hot flash.
Yeah. Why not?
I think we podcasted.
Bye-bye.